Have you ever sat down to study, maybe spent hours highlighting, rereading everything, watching videos, taking tons of notes,
Mhm.
and you felt really productive?
Yeah.
But then, like, the next day, you try to remember something specific and it's just poof, gone.
Uh-huh.
Like you poured all that time into a bucket with a huge hole.
That feeling, yeah, it was so common.
Yeah.
Incredibly frustrating, right? You put in the hours, the energy.
And nothing seems to stick.
Exactly. And it makes you think, maybe I'm just bad at this. But often, it's not about your brain power. It's about how you're studying.
Right. Those traditional methods, just rereading, highlighting the whole page, cramming last minute, they feel like work.
They do. They feel productive.
You see that bright yellow page and think, yep, studied. But the research, well, it's pretty clear that stuff just doesn't build lasting memory.
And that's really what this deep dive is all about. We've looked at a bunch of material, cognitive science, neuroscience, educational psychology to figure out how to study smarter, not just harder.
So we're building a toolkit, basically.
Exactly. A set of strategies that actually work with your brain's natural way of learning instead of fighting against it.
Think of it like a blueprint, or maybe a map for your learning. This deep dive is designed to show you techniques that, well, actually work. Things used by top students, high performers.
People who need to learn and remember effectively.
Yeah. The mission is pretty simple. Help you train your brain to learn faster, remember more, and actually recall that information when you need it, like for an exam or a conversation.
And we're going to explore some really powerful techniques, things like active recall, spaced repetition, why teaching something helps you learn it,
The Pomodoro technique for time management.
visual memory tools, mnemonics, those little memory hacks, goal setting, using tech wisely. Lots of practical stuff.
And crucially, we're not just giving you a list of what to do, we're digging into why these things work, right? Based on how the brain actually processes and holds on to information.
Absolutely. Because when you understand the why, the what just makes so much more sense. It stops feeling like this impossible uphill battle against forgetting.
It's not like a one-size-fits-all magic trick, though.
Definitely not. Think of it as that personalized map again. You try these techniques, see what clicks for you, what fits your style, your goals. You build your own system.
And the material suggests even small changes in how you study can make a massive difference.
Oh, huge. We're talking potentially doubling, maybe even tripling what you retain from the same study time.
Imagine that. Studying less, maybe, but remembering way, way more. Feeling confident, actually being able to pull out the information when you need it.
That's the goal. Studying smart.
So if you're ready to make your learning journey, more effective, less frustrating.
You're definitely in the right place. Let's figure out how to make those study hours really count for you.
Okay, so where do we start with studying smarter? The sources we looked at all seem to point back to the brain itself, understanding how it learns.
Yeah, that's the foundation. The core idea is, well, pretty simple. We need to align how we study with how our brains are actually wired to process information. Often, what feels intuitive isn't what's most effective.
And memory isn't just one thing, is it? There's short-term and long-term memory.
Exactly. Think of short-term memory or working memory, as it's often called, like your mental desk space. It's temporary.
Right.
It can only hold a few things at once, maybe 5 to 9 items, for a really short time, seconds, maybe a minute, unless you actively keep repeating it.
Like trying to remember a phone number someone just told you.
Perfect example. You juggle it in your head just long enough to dial it.
So that limited capacity, is
Yeah.
that why cramming feels so temporary? You shove stuff in for the test?
Uh-huh. You can keep it active in working memory by sheer force of will for a bit.
But then it vanishes.
Pretty much. If it doesn't get moved over to long-term memory, it's gone as soon as you stop focusing on it, like those papers just falling off your crowded desk.
Yeah. Okay, so long-term memory is the goal. The big filing cabinet, or library, as the material put it. Huge capacity. Potentially forever.
Theoretically, yeah.
Huh?
But getting information in there, filed properly so you can find it again, takes deliberate effort. It's not automatic.
The brain doesn't just save everything.
Nope. It prioritizes. It tends to store things that are meaningful or emotionally charged, maybe surprising, or things that required some effort to figure out. Just passively rereading something doesn't really signal, hey, this is important.
So how does info make the leap from the temporary desk to the permanent library?
That process is called consolidation. It's basically strengthening the neural connections for that memory, making it stick.
And where does that happen?
Well, this is fascinating. A lot of the crucial consolidation work happens during rest, and especially during sleep.
Wait, really? So staying up all night to cram?
Is actually shooting yourself in the foot. You're interrupting the very process that cements the information you studied earlier.
Yeah.
The research is super clear. Getting good sleep after you study is way more effective than trying to force more information into a tired brain. Your brain needs that downtime to organize and file.
Okay, so sleep is critical. What about when we're awake? Encoding. Is that like how the information gets initially tagged?
Yeah, encoding is how the brain translates incoming information into a format it can store. Think of it like creating the initial file.
And some files are better than others?
Definitely. Passive reading creates a kind of basic text file, but active encoding, using visuals, connecting it to a story, explaining it out loud, even linking it to movement, creates a much richer, more robust file, easier to find later.
That makes sense. Like if I just read the word elated, meh. But if I connect it to how I felt when I got, really good news, that feels stronger.
Exactly. You're creating associations. The brain doesn't store things in isolation. It connects new information to what you already know. Existing knowledge acts like hooks.
Ah, building a network.
Right. The more connections you build to that new piece of information, linking elated to a specific feeling, a memory, maybe related words, the more pathways you have to retrieve it later.
And emotions help with that linking. You mentioned emotional events.
Big time. Emotion acts like a highlighter pen for the brain. Events or information tied to strong feelings, excitement, surprise, even humor tend to get tagged as important and are remembered more vividly. That's why a funny example in a lesson often sticks.
Okay, makes sense. And the final piece seems obvious but crucial. Attention.
Absolutely fundamental.
Yeah.
Your brain simply cannot encode, let alone remember, what it doesn't pay attention to in the first place.
So multitasking, phone notifications, background noise.
They're not just annoying. They actively fragment your attention and disrupt that encoding process. You end up with weak, fuzzy memories, if any. Focus is key for a clear signal.
Okay, so let's pull this brain blueprint together. To study effectively, we need to chunk information down.
Respect that limited working memory.
Review things over time.
To strengthen long-term storage and signal importance.
Sleep well.
Crucial for consolidation. Non-negotiable, really.
Encode, actively use visuals, emotions connected to what we know.
Create those rich, robust memory files.
And minimize distractions.
Protect that precious attention for clear encoding.
Understanding this, it does feel empowering. It makes studying feel less like a chore and more like, learning a craft, learning how to work with your brain.
Exactly. It's about becoming a more skilled learner, understanding the tools you have.
All right, so we know the brain basics. We know it forgets stuff unless we actively work against that. How do we start fighting back effectively? Where does active recall fit in?
Active recall is, it's probably the single most powerful technique the research points to again and again. It's simple, but so many people don't use it enough.
And it basically flips traditional studying on its head.
Right.
Instead of putting info in by rereading.
You're forcing your brain to pull it out. Without looking at your notes, without looking at the book, you're actively retrieving it from memory.
So it's not just recognizing the answer if I see it. I have to actually produce it myself.
That's the absolute key difference. Recognition is easy. Recall is hard work for the brain. And just like lifting weights makes your muscles stronger.
The effort of retrieval makes the memory stronger.
Precisely. That struggle, that moment where you're racking your brain thinking, what was that word? Or how did that rule go again? That's the learning moment. That effort strengthens the neural pathway.
Okay, I get it. The struggle isn't failure, it's the workout.
Exactly. When you finally retrieve it after that effort, the connection becomes significantly more robust than if you just glanced at the answer.
Give me a practical example. Like for learning English vocabulary.
Okay, say you're learning phrasal verbs. You see look up. Instead of just rereading the definition, you cover the definition. You ask yourself, okay, look up. What does it mean? How would I use it in a sentence? You force yourself to generate the meaning and usage before you check.
And if I can't generate the sentence, I haven't really learned it yet.
Right. Or maybe you watched a video explaining a grammar concept. Instead of rewatching, grab a blank sheet of paper. Write down everything you remember about that concept. Explain it in your own words.
And the gaps on the paper show me exactly what didn't stick.
Perfectly highlights your weak spots. Way more efficient than just passively reviewing everything again. The material suggested, 10, 15 minutes of focused active recall can be more beneficial than a whole hour of rereading.
That sounds almost too good to be true.
Well, think about it. You're practicing the exact skill you need. Retrieval, not just passive recognition.
Flashcards are a classic tool for this, right? But you have to use them properly.
Huge caveat there, yes. Flashcards are great for active recall if you force yourself to retrieve the answer before you flip the card. Look at the prompt, the word, the question, and really try to remember.
Give yourself that pause.
Yes, that pause where your brain is searching, that's the magic.
Yeah.
Whether it's paper cards or apps like Anki or Quizlet, the principle's the same. Resist the urge to flip immediately.
Okay, effort before reveal. Got it. What about grammar? Like the present perfect tense we mentioned.
Same idea. Close your book, close your notes. Try to explain the present perfect out loud. Okay, when do we use it? What's the structure? Give me some examples.
And if I stumble or can't explain it clearly?
Bingo. You've instantly identified where your understanding is shaky. Record yourself explaining it. Listen back. It forces a much deeper level of processing.
So, easy ways to start doing this? After any study session, just jot down the key things I remember without looking. Or create questions for myself and answer them later.
Or pretend to teach it to someone, even an imaginary student. Use practice tests before you feel ready. Talk through concepts out loud while you're doing chores.
And it's okay if I forget stuff initially.
Absolutely normal. Forgetting isn't failure here. The act of struggling to recall and then successfully retrieving it is what really locks it in. Practice makes that retrieval faster and easier over time. That's fluency.
So it's a shift from focusing only on input reading, watching, to focusing on output, challenging myself to recall and use the information.
Yes, exactly. It mimics how you actually need to use language in the real world.
Yeah.
You need to pull words and grammar out, not just recognize them.
So the key question changes from, did I study this enough, to, can I recall this without looking?
That shift in perspective is transformative for making learning stick.
Okay, active recall sounds crucial for strengthening memories. But you mentioned the brain is built to forget. How do we manage that side of things? The timing.
Right. Active recall is one piece. The other critical piece is when you do that recall. And this gets back to that forgetting curve we touched on.
Ebbinghaus's curve, where we forget things incredibly quickly if we don't revisit them.
Exactly. The research showed just how steep it is. You can lose, 50% within an hour, maybe 70% within a day? It's the brain's way of clearing out unused information.
Explains why cramming feels so pointless long-term. It vanishes right after the test.
Pretty much. The information never really got consolidated properly. But the good news is we can flatten that curve dramatically.
How?
With spaced repetition. It's the technique of reviewing information at strategically timed, gradually increasing intervals.
So not just repeating randomly, but timing it.
Precisely. The key is to review the information just as you're about to forget it. That moment where recall takes a little effort, but it's still possible, that's the sweet spot.
Why does that specific timing work so well?
Because successfully retrieving it right then sends a powerful signal to your brain, hey, I still need this information. Each successful recall pushes the forgetting curve further out for that item. The memory gets stronger, more durable. It's like telling your brain, upgrade this file to long-term storage.
So if I learn a new word today, like ephemeral, I review it today.
Then maybe again tomorrow?
Then in maybe 3 days.
Yeah.
Then a week. Then 2 weeks. The gap gets bigger.
Exactly. If you keep successfully recalling ephemeral, at those increasing intervals, your brain learns that this is important, useful information and makes it much easier to access long term.
Okay, but managing that schedule for hundreds of words or grammar rules sounds complicated.
It can be manually, but this is where technology is incredibly helpful. Apps like Anki, Quizlet, Memrise, they're built specifically for spaced repetition.
How do they work?
They use algorithms.
Yeah.
When you review a flashcard, you rate how easy or hard it was to recall the answer. Based on your rating, the app calculates the optimal time to show you that card again.
So if I struggled, I see it again soon. If it was easy, it gets pushed way out.
Exactly. The app manages the schedule for you, ensuring you spend your review time efficiently, focusing on the things you're weakest on, right when you need to see them.
That sounds incredibly efficient. What if I prefer pen and paper? Is there a low-tech way?
Yeah, the material mentioned the Leitner system. It's a classic method using physical boxes, like maybe 5 boxes. All new cards start in box 1. If you get a card right from box 1, it moves to box 2. Get it right from box 2, it moves to box 3, and so on.
And if I get it wrong?
If you miss a card from any box, it goes all the way back to box 1.
Okay. And I review the boxes differently.
Right. You review box 1 every day, box 2 maybe every 3 days, box 3 once a week, box 4 every 2 weeks, box 5 once a month. The schedule naturally spaces out the review for items you know well.
That actually sounds pretty clever. Simple but effective.
It mirrors the forgetting curve manually.
And this isn't just for vocabulary, right? I could use it for grammar rules, idioms, pronunciation points.
Absolutely. Anything you can break down into a question and answer format can work with spaced repetition.
So it's really a mindset shift, too. Learning doesn't end with a lesson. It's about intentionally revisiting things before they fade.
It is. It's planned, scheduled reinforcement that works with your brain's memory system.
Are there other ways to apply it besides flashcards or boxes?
Sure. You could keep a review journal. Each day, summarize key points. Then schedule time to review yesterday's summary, last week's summary, etc.
Or just mark dates on a calendar for a specific topic. Review topic X on day 3, day 7, day 14.
Yep. Or record voice memos asking yourself questions about what you learned and play them back at spaced intervals. Building in cumulative review sessions, like dedicating Friday to quickly reviewing everything from the week, also helps.
It might feel a bit slow at first, though, like I'm spending time on old stuff.
It can feel that way initially, yeah, compared to constantly consuming new material. But the long-term payoff is huge. You forget so much less. The knowledge actually sticks and becomes part of you, requiring less effort to maintain over time.
So it builds a much more solid foundation, less leaky bucket.
Exactly. The power is in that rhythm of return, review, and reinforcement.
So don't just ask, do I know this? Ask, when should I review this again to make sure I keep knowing it? Timing really is everything.
Okay, so we've got active recall for the effort and spaced repetition for the timing. What about leveraging a different kind of mental workout, like explaining things?
The old saying, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. Is that what we're talking about?
That's exactly the principle. The material called it the protege effect. It's the idea that the act of preparing to teach something, or actually teaching it, forces you, the teacher, to understand and remember it much more deeply.
So just the intention of teaching makes you learn better, even if you don't actually teach anyone.
Research suggests yes. When you expect to have to explain something, your brain automatically shifts gears. You start organizing the information differently, looking for the core ideas, thinking about how to connect concepts, anticipating potential confusion.
Why does that help so much?
Because it pushes you beyond passive understanding into active processing and explanation. You have to retrieve the information, structure it logically, simplify complex points, and justify your reasoning. It's a higher level of cognitive engagement.
Let's use that present perfect example again. Reading the rule is one thing, but trying to explain why we use it in certain situations
Forces you to confront the nuances, the exceptions, the underlying logic. You'll quickly discover the fuzzy areas in your own understanding when you try to articulate it clearly.
So trying to teach is like a self-test. It reveals the gaps.
Exactly. It's a fantastic diagnostic tool. Where do you hesitate? Where can't you find the words? That's where you need to focus your review. And when you can explain it smoothly, it really solidifies your own learning.
But what if I don't have anyone around to teach? My cat isn't very interested in grammar.
Probably not. But you don't need a live audience. The main benefit comes from the mental process itself. You can teach yourself.
How? Just talk out loud.
Yep. Explain the concept out loud as if you were talking to someone. Use a whiteboard or just paper to draw diagrams while you explain. Record yourself giving a mini lesson on your phone. These actions trigger the same deep processing.
This sounds perfect for language learning. Explaining grammar, defining words, how to use idioms.
It really is. Take 5 new idioms. Don't just memorize them. Try explaining each one out loud, what it means, maybe its origin. Give clear examples and explain why it fits the context.
Or if I'm learning about essay structure, I could explain the purpose of an introduction or a thesis statement as if teaching a beginner.
Exactly. Breaking it down for someone else forces you to structure it clearly in your own mind. Or pretend you're creating a lesson plan for 10 new vocabulary words. Define, use in sentences, explain related forms, all without notes.
That forces retrieval and structured explanation. It makes the learning feel more intentional.
It does. You're not just absorbing, you're preparing to produce and clarify.
And I bet it boosts confidence, too. If you can explain something, even just to the wall, you feel more in command of it.
Absolutely. Your brain practices formulating those thoughts, which translates to fluency.
What's a simple habit I could start with this?
Try this. After every study session, spend just 5 minutes explaining the main points out loud. Imagine you're summarizing it for a friend or making a short recording.
And if I can do it clearly, great. If I stumble,
You know exactly what needs more work next time. It's instant feedback.
maybe even keep a teaching journal, writing explanations down.
Great idea. Writing it out forces clarity and creates a useful review resource later.
So teaching, even just pretend teaching, forces you to really grapple with the material and make sense of it.
Exactly. You don't just study it anymore. You start to own it.
Okay, these techniques are powerful, but it feels like you could still waste a lot of time if you just sit down vaguely thinking, I need to study English.
Oh, absolutely. That lack of focus is a killer for efficiency. You drift, you get distracted, you don't feel like you accomplish anything concrete.
And your brain doesn't know what to prioritize, right? It needs a target.
Precisely, which is why setting clear, specific goals for each study session is so critical. It tells your brain what the mission is and gives you a finish line.
And the material brought up the SMART framework for this. Specific, measurable.
Achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Yeah, it's a classic for a reason. It forces clarity.
So instead of study vocabulary,
A specific goal would be learn 10 new adjectives related to personality. Crystal clear.
okay, and measurable. Instead of get better at grammar.
It's complete and self-correct 2 exercises on using prepositions of time. You can literally check it off.
Achievable meaning, realistic for the time I actually have.
Exactly. Don't set yourself up to fail. If you have 30 minutes, write 1 paragraph comparing 2 things is achievable. Write a full essay probably isn't.
Relevant, it connects to my bigger goals, like passing an exam or traveling.
Yep. If you need English for work meetings, a relevant goal might be practice 5 common phrases for agreeing and disagreeing politely.
And time-bound gives it a deadline.
Right. Spend 25 minutes using active recall on my phrasal verb flashcards. Or read 1 news article in 15 minutes and identify the main topic. It adds that necessary structure.
When you put all those together, it transforms a vague task into a focused mission.
And your brain responds to that. It focuses energy, directs attention. That focused attention means better encoding, stronger memories being formed.
And I bet ticking off those specific goals feels good too. Motivating.
Hugely motivating. That little dopamine hit from achieving a clear goal builds momentum and confidence. It makes it easier to stay consistent, which is vital for long-term learning.
So a really practical tip. Before any study session, just take literally 1 minute to write down a SMART goal for that block of time.
Absolutely. Keep it small if needed. Identify the subject and verb in 5 sentences. Listen to 3 minutes of a podcast and write down 3 new words.
And then at the end, quick check. Did I do it? What was easy? What was tough?
That reflection is key. It reinforces the learning and helps you plan the next session more effectively.
The material also mentioned linking daily goals to a weekly theme, like English for Travel Week.
Yeah, that can provide great structure. Monday, learn 10 airport vocabulary words. Tuesday, practice asking for directions using 3 different phrases. Wednesday, listen to a dialogue about ordering food. Each small goal builds towards the bigger theme.
It really does feel like studying without goals is wandering lost in a forest. SMART goals are the map and compass.
They provide that essential clarity, direction, and energy.
So next time you sit down to study, don't just start. Ask, what specific thing do I want to achieve in this session, and how will I know when I've done it?
Okay, so SMART goals give us direction. But even with a clear goal, our focus can start to drift after a while, right? We hit that wall of mental fatigue.
Oh, yeah. That feeling where you're still staring at the page, but nothing's going in anymore. Your brain just feels full or fuzzy.
Exactly. And productivity plummets. You're just going through the motions. Your brain needs breaks to maintain high-quality focus.
And that's where things like the Pomodoro technique come in.
Precisely. The Pomodoro technique, developed by Francesco Cerito using a tomato timer, is a super simple but effective way to manage energy and focus.
It's the 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off thing, right?
Yep. You set a timer for 25 minutes and focus intensely on one task. No distractions. When the timer rings, you take a mandatory 5-minute break. That's 1 Pomodoro.
Then repeat.
Repeat. After about 4 Pomodoros, you take a longer break, maybe 15-30 minutes.
Why 25 minutes? Is that magic?
Not necessarily magic, but it seems to be a sweet spot for many people. It's long enough to get into deep work, but short enough that it feels manageable and helps fight procrastination. I can focus for just 25 minutes.
And the 5-minute break is non-negotiable.
Absolutely crucial. It's not wasted time. It's essential recovery. Let your brain reset, get up, stretch, look away from the screen. It helps you maintain that high level of focus for the next 25-minute sprint.
How would this work for studying English?
You could dedicate 1 Pomodoro to reading comprehension, the next to summarizing what you read, a third to vocabulary flashcards from the reading. Each block has a single, clear focus, driven by your SMART goal for that session.
So it encourages intensity over duration.
Exactly. Quality over quantity. Those 25 minutes of pure, focused effort are far more valuable than an hour of half-distracted studying.
And time blocking works well with this.
Yeah.
Scheduling out your day.
Yes, time blocking provides the overall structure. Instead of a vague to-do list, you block out specific times in your calendar. 10.000, 10.25, English Grammar Pomodoro, 10.30, 10.55, English Vocabulary Pomodoro, etc.
Takes the guesswork out of, what should I do now?
Right. Reduces decision fatigue. You just follow the schedule. It also helps you visually allocate time across different skills, reading, writing, listening, speaking, and adjust if needed. You can schedule harder tasks for when you know you have more energy.
So I could block out 90 minutes for English and plan to do 3 Pomodoro cycles within that block, each with its own mini goal.
Perfect example. And those breaks are key. They allow your brain to consolidate information subconsciously and prevent burnout. Think of them like recovery for your mental muscles.
Use them as little rewards. Walk around, listen to a song.
Great idea. Builds positive associations.
And all I need is a timer. Phone, kitchen timer, an app.
Yep, lots of apps out there like Focus Keeper, Forest, Pommel Focus. And feel free to experiment with the timing. Maybe 50 minutes on, 10 off works better for you. Find your own rhythm.
So the system is block your time, focus intensely during the work interval, Pomodoro, take deliberate breaks, repeat, and adjust as needed.
It's about working with your natural energy cycles, not against them.
Because sometimes studying smarter means managing your focus and energy, not just putting in more hours.
Okay, we've got goals, techniques, time management. But what about the actual physical space where you study? Does that really matter?
My messy desk is suddenly feeling judged.
Uh-huh. Well, the material we reviewed suggests it matters quite a bit. Your environment can either support your focus or constantly undermine it. Distractions are everywhere.
Like physical clutter, does that actually affect my brain?
It seems to. A cluttered space can lead to a cluttered mind. An organized, dedicated study space, just your essentials, signals focus time to your brain and reduces mental load. Less visual noise.
Makes sense. And actual noise. That's a big one for me.
Huge disruptor. Especially unpredictable noise traffic, conversations, TV next door. Your brain is constantly pulled away trying to evaluate it. If you can't control the noise-canceling headphones or even simple earplugs are a fantastic investment.
What about studying with music? Helpful or harmful?
It depends. The research generally suggests that music with lyrics, especially in a language you understand, is often detrimental because it competes for language processing resources in your brain.
Ah, okay. So instrumental is better.
Often, yes. Things like lo-fi beats, classical music, think Bach, Mozart, or ambient sounds like rain or nature sounds can work well for some people. They provide a consistent, unobtrusive background that can mask distracting noises without demanding attention. Experiment and see what works for you.
And the biggest distraction for most of us? The phone.
The ultimate attention thief. Studies show even just seeing your phone nearby can lower your effective cognitive capacity because part of your brain is on standby for notifications.
So silent mode isn't enough. Out of sight.
Out of sight, out of mind is best. And beyond that, use technology to fight technology. Website blockers are amazing.
Like Freedom or Cold Turkey.
Exactly. Apps or browser extensions that let you block distracting websites, social media, news, YouTube rabbit holes during your scheduled study blocks. They remove the temptation entirely.
Taking willpower out of the equation.
Pretty much. Combine that with study timers like Pomodoro apps, and you create a really focused digital environment too.
And consistency helps, studying in the same place.
Definitely. Your brain starts to associate that specific spot with focused work. It helps you get into the zone faster.
And basic comfort. Good lighting, decent chair.
Don't underestimate it. Eye strain from bad lighting or being physically uncomfortable is a constant low-level distraction that drains mental energy. Good ergonomics matter.
So, the checklist for a study sanctuary. Tidy space, manage noise, headphones, maybe instrumental music, tame digital distractions, phone away, blockers on, be consistent with the location and make sure it's comfortable.
It's not just about tidiness. It's about intentionally designing an environment that minimizes friction and maximizes your ability to focus deeply.
Building that foundation so the techniques we talked about can actually work effectively.
Exactly. Your study space should be your ally, not another obstacle.
Okay, environment set. What about making the actual information easier to grasp and remember?
Yeah.
You mentioned visuals earlier.
Yes. Tapping into your brain's visual processing power is like unlocking a learning superpower. We are incredibly visual creatures.
We remember pictures way better than words alone.
Significantly better. Estimates vary, but the boost is substantial. Using images, diagrams, colors, spatial layouts, it gives your brain multiple pathways to encode and later retrieve the information. Especially helpful if you are a visual learner, but really, it benefits everyone.
So what kind of visual tools are we talking about?
Simple diagrams are great for showing relationships or processes. You could diagram a sentence structure, like subject not verb dash object with arrows, or draw a timeline to visualize verb tenses.
Okay, I can picture that. And mind maps, those branching diagrams.
Mind maps are fantastic. You start with a central idea, say travel vocabulary, and then branch out with categories like accommodation, transport, food, adding specific words and phrases to each branch.
They look more like how ideas connect in my head, less like a rigid list.
Exactly. They mirror the brain's associative nature. And you can use colors for different branches, add little icons or drawings. It makes the whole thing more engaging and memorable. Your brain recognizes the overall visual pattern.
Color coding seems like an easy win, too.
Super simple, super effective. Assign specific colors to categories, maybe nouns are blue, verbs green, adjectives yellow. Consistency is key. It creates mental shortcuts for categorizing information quickly.
What about for learning individual words? Just draw a picture next to it.
Absolutely. Pair the word gloomy with a simple drawing of a rain cloud, or arduous with a stick figure struggling up a steep hill. It's called dual coding word plus image, and it creates a much stronger memory trace.
Visual flashcards, then, using apps that let you add images.
perfect use case. Apps like Anki make it easy to add images or even audio clips to your cards. Seeing a picture related to the word alongside the definition is way more effective than text alone.
And for complex grammar, maybe flowcharts?
Yes, a flowchart to help you decide which past tense to use, or a visual table comparing different modal verbs. It makes abstract rules much more concrete and easier to follow.
And you can use digital tools like mind mapping apps or just good old pen and paper?
Both work. Digital tools offer flexibility and searchability, but the physical act of drawing, writing, using colored pens that engages different motor pathways and can deepen the encoding process too. Find what you prefer.
It sounds like it makes studying less passive, more interactive, and maybe even fun.
Definitely more engaging. And anything that makes studying more enjoyable makes you more likely to do it consistently. Engagement is key.
So the takeaway is, don't just read or write lists. Use diagrams, mind maps, color, drawings, visual flashcards. Engage that visual brain.
It makes learning richer, more effective, and definitely more memorable. You don't have to be an artist. Simple visuals work wonders.
Okay, visuals are great, but sometimes you have those really dry facts or lists, or maybe tricky spellings that just refuse to stick. Is there anything for those stubborn bits?
Ah, yes. This is where mnemonics and associations come in, basically creative memory hacks, little tricks to make the unmemorable memorable.
Why do these weird tricks work?
Because our brains are much better at remembering stories, patterns, images, and personal connections than abstract, isolated information. Mnemonics transform that dry data into something lively or meaningful that your brain can latch onto.
Like acronyms, taking the first letter of things.
Classic example. We mentioned fanboys for coordinating conjunctions for and, nor, but, or yet so. It turns a boring list into a single, easy-to-recall word.
And those silly stories you can make up.
Those work incredibly well, especially the sillier or more bizarre they are. Your brain pays attention to the unusual. Remember our irregular verbs example. I ran to the store but got caught by a dog who bit me. Connecting items in a little narrative taps into our natural inclination for stories.
The weirder the story, the better it sticks.
Often, yes. Or rhymes and jingles. I before E, except after C. That little rhyme has saved countless spelling errors. Rhythm and pattern are things the brain loves. You can make up your own little chants.
And associations linking new stuff to things I already know well.
Absolutely fundamental. Anchor that new, unfamiliar information to something solid in your existing knowledge. Connect a new word to a similar sounding word in your language, or a vivid memory, or a person you know.
Like connecting somber to the feeling at a specific sad event I remember.
Perfect. Or visualizing the phrasal verb put off by picturing yourself physically pushing something away because you're delaying it, making it visual and personal.
You mentioned memory palaces before. Sounds grand.
It's a powerful technique, though it takes practice. You visualize a place you know extremely well, like your house. Then you mentally place the items you need to remember in specific locations along a route through that place.
So, like, the first item is by the front door, the second on the kitchen table.
Exactly. To recall the list, you mentally walk through your memory palace and see the items in their assigned spots. It leverages our excellent spatial memory.
These techniques sound like they make learning more active and creative.
They absolutely do. You're not just passively receiving, you're actively building connections, creating meaning, making it personal.
So the trick is to get playful. Invent funny images, crazy stories, catchy rhymes.
Yes. The more imaginative and engaging you make it, the stronger the memory hook. And remember to review your mnemonics using spaced repetition too.
They're like personalized mental shortcuts, helping the brain find patterns and meaning.
Exactly. So next time something just won't stick, ask yourself, how can I make this weird? How can I connect it? How can I turn this struggle into something memorable? Now, we've talked a lot about what to do when you study techniques, timing, focus. But none of it works optimally if the brain itself isn't physically ready to learn.
You mean the basics. Sleep, diet, water.
The absolute fundamentals. The material we looked at really underscored this. You can have the best techniques, but if your brain is sleep-deprived, dehydrated, or poorly nourished, learning is going to be an uphill battle.
Sleep seems to be the big one everyone mentions for memory.
It's huge. As we said, that crucial memory consolidation process happens largely during sleep. Most adults need a solid 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep for their brains to function optimally.
So skipping sleep to study more is just counterproductive.
Completely. You're not giving your brain the chance to actually store what you learned earlier. Plus, lack of sleep impacts focus, mood, decision-making, everything you need for effective study. Consistent sleep is non-negotiable.
And hydration. Seems simple, just drink water.
Simple, but so easy to neglect. Your brain is mostly water. Even mild dehydration can impair attention, memory, and thinking speed. Neurons don't fire as efficiently.
So keep that water bottle handy during study sessions.
Definitely. Sip throughout the day, don't wait until you're thirsty, and be mindful of too much caffeine or sugary drinks that can lead to energy crashes later. Steady hydration supports steady focus.
Okay, and diet. Brain food, is that a real thing?
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
Your brain needs specific nutrients to function well. The material highlighted things like omega-3 fatty acids found in fatty fish, walnuts, flax seeds. They're crucial for cell membranes and communication.
Okay, omega-3s. What else?
Antioxidants from colorful fruits and vegetables, berries, leafy greens protect brain cells from damage. Complex carbohydrates, whole grains, oats, quinoa provides steady energy, unlike sugary snacks.
And protein.
Essential for making neurotransmitters, the chemical messengers that regulate mood and focus. Think eggs, beans, lentils, lean meats, and B vitamins are important too.
What should we limit? Processed stuff.
Generally, yes. Foods high in sugar, unhealthy fats, and artificial additives can contribute to inflammation and negatively impact cognitive function and memory over time. Stick to whole, unprocessed foods as much as possible.
And eating regularly matters, not skipping meals.
Keeps your blood sugar stable, preventing those energy dips that kill concentration.
What about physical exercise? Does moving my body help my brain?
Incredibly so. Exercise boosts blood flow to the brain, delivering vital oxygen and nutrients. It reduces stress, improves mood, and even encourages the growth of new brain cells and connections. Even a short walk during a study break helps clear your head.
So it's a whole package. Prioritize sleep, stay hydrated, eat a balanced, brain-healthy diet, limit junk food, and move your body.
These aren't just healthy habits. They are fundamental strategies for optimizing your brain for learning. You're laying the biological foundation for all the other techniques to work effectively.
Caring for your brain is caring for your most important study tool.
Exactly. Give it the fuel and rest it needs to perform at its best.
All right, we've covered encoding, storing, retrieving. But what about actually using the language? All this study has to lead somewhere, right?
Absolutely. Textbooks, apps, study techniques, they build a foundation. But true mastery, making the language yours, happens when you take it out into the real world and use it.
The use it or lose it principle.
Exactly. If you learn a word or a grammar rule but never actively apply it in a meaningful context, your brain eventually flags it as non-essential information. It prioritizes what you actually use.
So immersion is key. Creating situations where I have to use English.
Immersion is fantastic. Surrounding yourself with the language, making it part of your daily life, forces you to constantly engage with it. It turns passive knowledge into active, usable skills.
And the best way to actively use it is probably speaking.
Conversation is arguably the ultimate practice. It forces real-time retrieval, sentence construction, grammar application, pronunciation, listening comprehension, everything at once.
Sounds intimidating.
It can be. But start small. Use language exchange apps, find an online tutor, join a conversation group. Even just talking to yourself counts.
Talking to myself, really?
Describe your day out loud in English as you're doing things. Narrate your actions. It forces you to retrieve vocabulary and form sentences actively. It's great practice without the pressure.
Okay, maybe I'll try that. What about writing?
Journaling in English is incredibly powerful. Write a few sentences each day about anything, your thoughts, your plans, what you learned. It forces deliberate construction and helps you organize your ideas in English. Plus, you can look back and see your progress.
And consuming English media. Does watching movies count as practice?
Definitely. Movies, podcasts, music, YouTube videos, they expose you to natural language, different accents, idioms, conversational flow. It's enjoyable, context-rich learning.
Start with subtitles, maybe?
Sure, start with English subtitles, then try watching without them as your listening improves. Listen to podcasts on topics you enjoy. Pay attention to how people actually speak.
What about trying to think in English? Is that possible?
It's a fantastic goal. Try to bypass translating in your head. Form your thoughts directly in English. It feels clunky at first, but it's a huge step towards fluency and natural-sounding speech.
So it's about building small, consistent habits outside of formal study time.
Exactly. Change your phone language to English. Label items around your house. Follow English-speaking accounts on social media. Join online forums related to your hobbies. Find ways to make English part of your environment.
And not being afraid to make mistakes when I try.
Crucial. Mistakes are inevitable. They're how you learn. Every time you try, even if it's imperfect, you're strengthening those pathways and building confidence. Don't let fear hold you back.
Real-life practice bridges the gap between knowing the rules and actually using the language.
It does. It makes abstract concepts concrete. And seeing yourself successfully communicate, even in small ways, is incredibly motivating. It makes all the study feel worthwhile.
So the message is, combine your structured study with consistent real-world application. Speak, write, listen, think in English whenever you can.
That's when the knowledge truly comes alive and becomes a skill you can rely on.
Now, speaking of fitting things into daily life, technology seems like it could be a huge help or a huge hindrance. It's a real double-edged sword for studying, isn't it?
It absolutely is. The potential is incredible, but so is the potential for distraction. The key, as the material emphasized, is using it wisely and intentionally.
What are some of the genuinely helpful tech tools for smarter studying?
For organizing everything, flexible platforms like Notion or Evernote are fantastic. Notion is like a build-your-own digital workspace. You can create linked databases for vocab, track your progress, embed notes, videos, everything. Very customizable.
So beyond just digital notes, it helps you connect ideas.
Exactly. Evernote is also great for capturing notes, web clippings, even handwritten stuff, and making it all searchable. A central hub for your resources.
And for the actual learning and review part, we mentioned Anki already.
Anki is still king for spaced repetition. That algorithm adapting to your recall strength is just scientifically proven to be incredibly efficient for locking things into long-term memory. A must-use tool for many serious learners.
And you can customize cards with images, audio, making it multisensory.
Right, which boosts encoding and for polishing your output, especially writing.
Grammarly.
Grammarly or similar tools are like having a personal editor. They catch errors in grammar, spelling, punctuation, and even suggest improvements for clarity and style. The explanations help you learn why something was wrong. Great for essays, emails, even journal entries.
Okay, so those are the allies. Organizations, spaced repetition, writing feedback. What about the enemy side, the distractions?
The endless vortex in the internet. Social media, news sites, YouTube, notifications, constantly vying for your attention.
And we know attention is crucial for learning.
Precisely. So you need tools to fight back. Website blockers are essential. Apps like Stay Focused, Freedom, Cold Turkey, they let you temporarily block access to your specific distracting sites during your scheduled study times.
Takes the temptation right off the table.
It does. No willpower needed in the moment. And using study timers like Pomodoro apps reinforces that focus block and makes you less likely to stray.
So the strategy is to build a tech ecosystem that supports learning while actively blocking distractions.
That's the ideal. Leverage the power of tools like Notion, Anki, Grammarly, but protect the focus needed to use them effectively with blockers and timers. Set clear boundaries.
So some practical tips. Get organized with Notion or Evernote. Use Anki daily for spaced repetition. Check your writing with Grammarly. Set up website blockers for study periods. Use Pomodoro timers. Turn off phone notifications.
And remember to back up your digital notes. Technology is a powerful asset when you control it, but it can easily derail you if you don't.
It's about being intentional, making technology serve your learning goals, not the other way around.
A balanced digital strategy is key to unlocking tech's potential without falling into its traps.
Wow, okay. we've covered a massive amount of ground here. Brain science, active recall, spacing, teaching, goals, time, environment, visuals, mnemonics, health, practice, tech. It's a lot.
It really is. But the goal isn't to feel overwhelmed or try to do everything perfectly tomorrow. It's about seeing all these pieces as elements you can use to build something that works for you.
Right. Pulling it all together into a personal retention plan, that's the ultimate goal of this deep dive, isn't it?
Exactly. Because there's no magic formula that works for everyone. Your learning style, your schedule, your specific reasons for learning English, they all shape what your ideal plan looks like.
So, how do I actually start building my own plan? Where do I begin?
First, just reflect. Which of the techniques we discussed today actually sounded interesting or appealing to you? Did the idea of visual mind maps click? Does the structure of Pomodoro feel right? Start with what resonates.
Pick the tools that feel like they fit me.
Exactly. Then get specific about your goals. Use that SMART framework we talked about. What exactly do you want to achieve this week, this month? Break it down into manageable targets.
And build a realistic schedule around those goals.
Yes, consistency beats intensity every time. Short, focused daily sessions are usually much more sustainable and effective than cramming once a week. Find pockets of time that work for your life.
Integrate the tech tools that help Anki, Notion, whatever, but be disciplined about blocking the distractions.
Absolutely crucial. Leverage the good, block the bad.
And make sure to build in that real-life practice, talking, writing, listening.
Non-negotiable for fluency and long-term retention. Schedule time for conversation practice, start that English journal, find podcasts you enjoy, make it real.
And the final step seems to be reviewing the plan itself, being flexible.
Yes, learning is dynamic. What works wonders now might feel stale in a few months. Regularly check in. Is this still working? Am I making progress? Is it enjoyable? Don't be afraid to tweak techniques or adjust your schedule.
It's not about finding the one perfect plan forever, but about building a system that evolves with me.
Exactly. And celebrate the small wins along the way. Acknowledging your progress, mastering a tricky verb, understanding a movie clip, holding a simple conversation keeps motivation high.
So designing this plan is really about taking active control of my learning journey, making conscious choices about how I learn best.
Precisely. You're moving from passively hoping things stick to actively engineering the conditions for effective, lasting learning.
This has been incredibly insightful. We've really taken a deep dive into studying smarter, not harder, aligning with how our brains work, using proven techniques.
Hopefully it provides a powerful toolkit for anyone looking to make their English learning more effective and, honestly, more enjoyable.
As you listen to this, think about which tip or strategy really resonated with you personally. What's one small change you could try implementing this week?
Because this deep dive has armed you with strategies to learn English more effectively. But maybe, just maybe, the biggest takeaway isn't just what techniques to use, but the realization that becoming a skilled, adaptable learner, someone who understands how to learn effectively, is a superpower you can build for any challenge for the rest of your life. What did becoming that truly empowered learner mean for your future?